Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. I've always loved storms, the drama, the raw power, the way they shake things up and make everything feel new again. But what happened during that particular storm changed everything, and it had nothing to do with thunder or lightning. It was about something entirely different, something human, unexpected, and beautifully emotional. I never imagined at 60 years old I'd find myself sitting in the quiet shadows of my own living room, staring blankly at the soft flickering of a candle, questioning everything I had known to be true about my life. My name is Anna, and for the past 40 years, I've lived a life of comforting predictability beside James, my husband. Our marriage wasn't extraordinary, but it was solid, built on years of routines, silent understandings, and shared cups of coffee that filled the mornings of our modest home in a tranquil suburb of New York. To anyone looking from the outside, we appeared content, even enviable. Yet tonight, the comfort had fractured into something far more unsettling, something restless and unfamiliar stirring deep within my chest. It began subtly at first, a fleeting doubt easily dismissed as fatigue or nostalgia for younger days. But recently, this whisper had grown louder, impossible to ignore. Was this really the life I had chosen, or had I simply slipped into the convenient mold that my marriage demanded? James had always been a dedicated provider, consumed by his career, and I, supportive, patient, forever waiting in the wings, had silently learned to make peace with the shadows. But tonight had altered everything. An uneasy sense of anticipation fluttered beneath my skin as I replayed the evening's events at James's corporate dinner, glamorous chandeliers, the clinking of crystal glasses, and hushed conversations of men and women who wore wealth and confidence like armor. Yet it was the conversation with Michael, James's closest colleague and confidant, that resonated most clearly in my mind. Michael, whom I'd known superficially for years, had pulled me aside with a gentleness in his eyes I'd never noticed before. He spoke softly, his words carefully chosen but piercingly honest. "Anna, does James ever truly see you? Do you ever wonder what might have been if you had lived for yourself?" The question lingered, wrapping itself around my heart, heavy and insistent, refusing to release me from its grip. Now alone in this room that had witnessed decades of quiet companionship, the depth of Michael's words pressed upon me, awakening emotions I'd buried beneath layers of obligation and sacrifice. For the first time in years, I felt seen, but not by the man I had shared a lifetime with. Instead, it was Michael's gentle honesty that had cracked open the doorway to possibilities I had never dared imagine. And now, faced with this unsettling revelation, I couldn't help but wonder, had I lived my whole life invisible, or was this the beginning of discovering who Anna truly was? The days following Michael's words felt surreal, almost as if I were drifting through a haze, uncertain of everything I'd once taken for granted. Each morning, I'd stand in our kitchen observing James from across the room as he went through his meticulous routines, brewing coffee, adjusting his tie, offering me a quick absent kiss before disappearing through the front door. Yet, where once I'd found quiet comfort in this predictable dance, now I only saw an emptiness, a hollow ritual devoid of meaning. The question Michael had gently placed into my consciousness refused to fade. I found myself caught between guilt and longing, wrestling with feelings that threatened to disrupt the peaceful complacency of my life. Was it wrong to desire more after so many years? Was it betrayal to want to feel seen, truly seen, by someone who had stood on the periphery of my world for decades? One evening, as twilight painted soft shadows across our garden, I sat alone on the porch, trying desperately to silence the turmoil inside me. The soft hum of crickets mingled with distant sounds of traffic, yet nothing could distract me from the relentless ache in my chest. Suddenly the quiet was broken by the unexpected ringing of my phone. My heart leaped as I saw Michael's name on the screen, the single syllable of his name echoing sharply in my ears. Hesitating, I finally answered, my voice trembling with cautious anticipation. "Anna," he began gently, his voice steady yet tinged with uncertainty. "I'm sorry if my words troubled you the other night. That wasn't my intention. But I've watched you both for years, and I needed you to know there's more out there, more for you." A tense silence fell between us, heavy with unspoken feelings and possibilities I dared not name. "Michael," I whispered, almost afraid to give voice to the thoughts that had consumed me. "Why are you telling me this now, after all these years?" He sighed deeply, vulnerability evident in the slow exhale that followed. "Because life has a way of slipping past us, Anna. I've waited too long to tell you this. I couldn't bear it if you never knew that someone sees you, truly sees you. And if you're willing, I want to be there as you discover who you could be." My heart thudded painfully against my ribs, and I clutched the phone tightly, torn between the comfort of the life I'd known and the terrifying excitement of the unknown. In that fragile moment, I realized I stood at the precipice of a choice, one that could shatter the familiar foundations of my existence, yet perhaps, just perhaps, could also lead me toward the self I'd forgotten existed. In the days that followed Michael's call, a storm brewed within me, each passing hour intensifying my internal conflict. Every routine felt alien, a painful reminder of the emptiness I had long accepted as normal. Each evening, as James returned home, seemingly oblivious to the upheaval I was experiencing, I searched his face desperately for some sign of recognition, some evidence that he felt the widening chasm between us. But his smiles were automatic, his questions perfunctory. The space beside him, once a sanctuary, now felt unbearably lonely, amplifying my restless ache. Then, on an ordinary Thursday evening, something shifted irreversibly. James and I sat across from each other at dinner, the clinking of silverware against porcelain, echoing loudly in the oppressive silence. My throat tightened, the words I'd rehearsed 1,000 times trapped behind my lips. Yet I knew I could no longer postpone this conversation. With trembling hands, I finally placed my fork down and met his gaze. "James," my voice quivered, betraying the storm inside me, "we need to talk." His eyes flicked upward from his plate, confusion mingled with cautious concern. "What's wrong, Anna? You've seemed distracted lately." For a moment, guilt and doubt seized me, nearly silencing the truth I'd fought so hard to admit. But Michael's gentle, insistent words rang clearer, urging me forward. "I don't feel seen anymore, James," I confessed, tears stinging the corners of my eyes, my voice heavy with years of suppressed longing. "We've built a life together, but somewhere along the way I became invisible. First to you, then even to myself." He sat back, stunned, the realization slowly spreading across his features. "I never meant," he began weakly, before trailing off, a shadow of regret and sadness clouding his face. "I know," I whispered softly, "but intentions aren't enough anymore. I need to feel alive again. I deserve to be more than just part of your routine. Silence stretched tautly between us, filled with uncertainty and fear of what lay ahead. Would this be the end, or could it be a new beginning? As he processed my words, I saw vulnerability in his eyes, perhaps the first genuine reflection I'd seen in years. Finally, James reached across the table, his hand gently covering mine, an unexpected tenderness in his touch. I can't promise immediate change, Anna, he said, his voice rough with emotion, but I want to try. You're right. You deserve more. In that raw moment, hope flickered weakly, fragile yet unmistakably present. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with shadows and unknowns, but for the first time, I felt brave enough to step forward, to reclaim the woman I'd forgotten, and perhaps the love we'd both allowed to slip quietly away. The days following our conversation felt like walking a tightrope, each step uncertain, each interaction fraught with an unspoken fragility. James made visible efforts, a kind word here, a gentle touch there, as if cautiously testing unfamiliar waters. Yet, beneath those cautious gestures, a tension lingered, thick and palpable. I couldn't shake the sense that we were both holding our breath, waiting for something, though neither of us knew exactly what that something was. Then came a Saturday evening, seemingly ordinary, yet charged with an unspoken electricity. James had suggested dinner at a quiet restaurant we once loved, a place we hadn't visited in years. As we sat across from each other beneath the gentle flicker of candlelight, memories of happier days surfaced, days when laughter came easily and love was simple. For a moment, nostalgia enveloped us, wrapping our shared past around us like a comforting blanket. But just as quickly, reality intruded. Halfway through dinner, James reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. My heart caught painfully in my chest, fear and hope warring fiercely. With careful deliberation, he placed it on the table between us, his eyes meeting mine, open yet clouded with emotion. I bought this for our anniversary 2 years ago, he admitted quietly, his voice strained with a vulnerability I'd rarely heard. I kept waiting for the right moment, the perfect time, but that moment never came. Now I wonder if it's too late. My pulse quickened as I reached for the box, hesitating slightly before opening it. Nestled inside was a delicate necklace, a silver pendant shaped like a delicate leaf, something I'd admired casually in a shop window years ago, assuming he'd forgotten. Tears filled my eyes, not from joy, but from a profound sadness at how far we'd drifted, how something meant to bring us closer now felt like an apology for missed chances. James, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. I don't need gifts. I just need you to see me, to hear me. I need us to find our way back, if that's even possible. He exhaled slowly, the vulnerability in his expression matching my own. I'm trying, Anne. I don't know exactly how, but I want to make this right. But I'm also terrified that I've already lost you. We sat in silence, our dinner forgotten, the space between us filled with unanswered questions and the faint spark of possibility. Could we rebuild, or was our marriage destined to crumble beneath the weight of years of neglect? I didn't have the answers yet, but as I looked into James's eyes, glimpsing a tenderness I'd almost forgotten existed, I knew one thing clearly. Our story was far from over, and the next chapter would require courage from both of us. The days after our dinner became a delicate dance, each step taken carefully, both of us cautious not to shatter the fragile peace we'd just begun to rebuild. Yet, despite James's efforts and my own quiet hopefulness, an unsettling doubt lingered beneath my thoughts. Was it truly possible to rekindle the warmth we'd lost, or were we merely prolonging an inevitable goodbye? One evening, as I stood alone in our dimly lit kitchen, lost in my thoughts, my phone buzzed gently on the countertop. My heart quickened when I saw the name lighting the screen. It was a message from Paul, an old friend from my college days whom I hadn't spoken to in years. "Anne, I'm in town for a few days. Would love to catch up." His words, simple and unassuming, sparked something within me, a longing for connection, a chance to feel seen again. But immediately guilt surged through me. Was this innocent curiosity, or was I risking everything I'd built with James, even as fragile as it had become? I hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen, each passing second amplifying my internal turmoil. Yet a deeper voice within urged me on, whispering that perhaps seeing Paul could offer clarity, a fresh perspective, something my heart desperately craved. Finally, my fingers moved of their own accord, typing a cautious response. "I'd like that." We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe by the river, a place neutral enough to feel safe, yet intimate enough to allow genuine conversation. The morning of our meeting, anxiety wrapped around me like a cloak. I chose my clothing carefully, simple yet flattering, wondering briefly if it was wrong to want to feel beautiful again. As I walked through the cafe doors, my breath caught at the sight of Paul, seated at a corner table, his familiar smile brightening when he saw me. Time had aged him gracefully, softening his features yet sharpening his gaze. As we talked, the hours melted away, replaced by nostalgia, laughter, and an ease I'd forgotten existed. Paul listened intently as I spoke, his eyes reflecting genuine empathy, no judgment, only understanding. He saw me, not as a wife struggling in her marriage, but as Anne, the woman with dreams and hopes and fears, the woman I'd almost forgotten existed. But as our conversation deepened, I felt a sudden chill of realization. Was I seeking comfort in Paul because it was easier than facing the complexities at home? Or was this encounter illuminating something deeper, a profound dissatisfaction I'd hidden even from myself? My phone buzzed again, pulling me back sharply into reality. A message from James. "Dinner tonight? I'd love to talk." My heart twisted painfully, suspended between the familiarity of the past and the uncertainty of the present. As Paul looked at me gently, sensing my shift, I knew I stood at a critical crossroads, one where the next choice could reshape everything: my marriage, my heart, and my very understanding of who I had become. My heart was still racing when I stepped through our front door later that afternoon. The house felt unnaturally quiet, almost as if it were holding its breath along with me. James was sitting at the dining room table, his posture tense, eyes fixed on the cold cup of coffee in front of him. His silence spoke volumes, louder than any words could have. When he finally looked up, the pain etched into his features hit me like a physical blow, sending a sharp pang of guilt through my chest. "Where were you?" he asked quietly, his voice low and heavy, laced with unspoken accusations. The air thickened instantly, charged with a tension that filled every corner of the room. My throat tightened, and for a moment I wasn't sure if I could find my voice at all. "I needed some time," I managed, my voice softer than I'd intended. "I met with an old friend. It wasn't planned." But my words trailed off, unable to explain the complex mix of emotions that had drawn me to Paul in the first place. James stared at me, searching my face as though trying to decipher something hidden deep within me. "Anne," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "Do you remember when we used to tell each other everything? When there were no secrets between us?" The quiet desperation in his voice twisted my heart painfully. I nodded slowly, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. "I miss that too, James, more than you know." He took a deep breath, gathering his courage before speaking again, his voice raw with vulnerability. "I don't want to lose you, Anne. But lately, it feels like we're living separate lives under the same roof. I can't keep pretending everything's fine." The honesty in his admission stunned me. For the first time in what felt like forever, we were both stripped bare, no longer hiding behind polite routines and unspoken disappointments. I stepped closer, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. "I don't want that either," I whispered, reaching out hesitantly to touch his hand. The warmth of his skin against mine felt achingly familiar, yet somehow fragile. "But how do we find our way back, James? Is it even possible?" He squeezed my fingers gently, eyes full of anguish yet tinged with hope. "I don't know, but I think we owe it to ourselves and to the life we've built to try." In that instant, standing together in our quiet home, we both knew there were no easy answers, no guarantees. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with difficult conversations and painful truths. Yet as James's hand tightened around mine, I felt the smallest spark ignite within me, a spark that hinted at possibilities I had almost forgotten existed. The silence stretched between us, thickening until the tension felt suffocating. Daniel stood motionless, his eyes searching mine with a desperate vulnerability I'd never seen before. And in that moment, all the walls I'd carefully built around my heart began to fracture. My fingers trembled as I set the phone down on the counter, the small thud echoing ominously in the quiet kitchen. The words formed slowly, painful and raw, as they found their way to the surface. "It was Richard," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, heavy with the weight of truth. Daniel's face paled instantly, a shadow of hurt passing across his features. "Richard? My boss? Why, what could you possibly have to talk about with him?" His voice was edged with disbelief, each word sharp and fragile as glass, poised to shatter the delicate peace we'd built over decades. My pulse quickened as I searched his eyes, struggling to find the strength to speak the words that could forever alter our world. "He said something to me at the gala, something I haven't been able to shake." I took a shaky breath, my chest tightening. "He noticed things about us, Daniel. How distant we've become, how invisible I've started to feel around you." He stood motionless, absorbing each word, as though struck by a physical blow. The hurt in his expression deepened, and I saw a flicker of realization and regret mingled within his gaze. "Is that how you really feel? Invisible?" His voice broke slightly, betraying his pain. For the first time, I saw genuine vulnerability in his eyes, a raw, aching openness that pulled fiercely at my heart. "I never wanted to hurt you," I whispered, tears filling my eyes, blurring my vision. "But I can't keep pretending everything is okay. We're drifting, Daniel. We've lost sight of each other in the routine, and I've been afraid to admit how lonely I felt." His eyes softened as he stepped closer, hesitation evident in his movements. "Evelyn, I thought providing stability and security meant I was doing my part, but you're right. I've stopped truly seeing you, and somewhere along the way, we lost ourselves." He reached out cautiously, gently grasping my hand, his touch filled with unspoken apologies and desperate hope. A sob rose in my throat, raw and uncontrollable. I squeezed his hand tightly, clinging to it like a lifeline. Can we fix this? Can we find our way back? My voice trembled, carrying both my deepest fears and my fragile hope. He took a deep breath, his expression resolute yet filled with uncertainty. We can try, he whispered, but it means we have to start seeing each other again, not as we've become, but as we truly are. In that quiet kitchen, amidst the shattered fragments of our carefully built lives, a fragile hope took root, uncertain yet undeniable, pulling us toward a future neither of us could clearly see, but one we now understood we needed to face together. The evening air felt heavy as I stood alone on the back porch, the distant hum of traffic mingling with my restless heartbeat. Darkness had settled softly, and I drew my shawl tighter around my shoulders, though the chill I felt came more from within than from the cool autumn breeze. My conversation with Robert echoed repeatedly in my mind, each word leaving a sharp pang of uncertainty. How had my life come to this crossroads? For years, I'd built my world around Michael, nurturing our marriage, raising our children, providing a steadfast anchor even as I quietly lost touch with myself. Robert's unexpected confession had shaken me to my core, forcing me to confront the truth I'd buried beneath routine and responsibility. Was it too late to reclaim a piece of myself? I heard footsteps behind me and turned, startled, as Michael appeared in the doorway, concern etched across his tired face. "You've been quiet tonight, Claire," he said softly, his eyes searching mine for answers I wasn't sure I could give. My heart twisted painfully at the sincerity in his gaze, yet something held me back. I couldn't bring myself to tell him, not yet. The silence hung between us, heavy with unspoken questions and fragile truths. "I'm just tired," I finally whispered, though even as the words left my lips, they felt hollow. Michael stepped closer, hesitantly reaching for my hand, his touch familiar, yet strangely distant. "Something's wrong," he said quietly. "I can feel it." I drew a slow, trembling breath, feeling the walls I'd carefully built beginning to crumble. Should I tell him everything, risk exposing the secret I'd so recently discovered about myself, or keep silent, protecting the comfortable life we'd built together? Suddenly, the weight of my choice became suffocating. I gently pulled my hand from his grasp, moving toward the edge of the porch, my gaze fixed on the horizon, where stars flickered faintly above the city lights. "Michael," I began softly, my voice trembling with the burden of honesty. "When was the last time you really saw me, not just as your wife, but as the woman you fell in love with?" He was silent, and when I turned to face him, his eyes glistened with confusion and pain. In that moment, I felt my heart ache, not just for myself, but for him as well, caught in the crossfire of my own rediscovery. "I don't know," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in his answer pierced my heart, leaving us both suspended in the fragile uncertainty of what came next. Life often brings us to unexpected crossroads, challenging our assumptions about love, loyalty, and what it truly means to feel seen. Claire's journey reminds us that relationships require more than mere comfort. They need genuine connection, communication, and mutual appreciation. Her story reveals the importance of nurturing not only our commitments, but also our individuality, ensuring we never lose sight of ourselves in the shadows of routine. Can Claire and Michael find their way back to each other, or will secrets and long-held feelings tear apart what they've spent decades building. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you sympathize with Claire, Michael, or perhaps both? Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe to our channel, Men's Cheating Story, to stay updated and find out what happens next. Will Claire choose honesty, or will fear keep her silent? The next part of this emotional journey is coming soon, and you won't want to miss it.